Hi, everyone that's joining so far. We'll give it a couple minutes for everyone to join. Hi, Neve.
How is everyone?
We're all good. Thank you for doing this last minute.
Can they hear us now?
Yes, we are
Okay.
live.
Right.
So I'll get this started. Thank you everybody for coming to our webinar to hear more about our LLMs in human rights law, public international law, and criminal justice. You would have seen in the original comms that Hedy was going to talk about human rights, but he unfortunately couldn't make it today. So Neve has kindly stepped in. My name is Karina Lynn. I am the Senior Marketing and Communications Officer for the School of Law, and I'm here with Thomas, Andrew, and Neve, and they're each going to introduce themselves, talk a bit about their programs, and then I'll open it up to you guys for questions. So if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A section, and I'll field them to the correct academic. So I'll just go in order of my screen. Thomas, you want to get started?
Sure, of course. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's a great pleasure to be speaking to you this afternoon. My name is Dr. Thomas McManus, and I am the program lead for the Criminal Justice LLM. So for anyone who's signed up for or is going to be doing the Criminal Justice LLM, I'm your point of contact. And the program leader. So I help design the program and make sure that it runs smoothly and make sure that everybody gets what they want out of the course. There's been a bit of a restructure on a lot of the programs. So we're still getting used to the new structure, but for the Criminal Justice LLM, there is a compulsory dissertation, which is, I mean, a great way to get your teeth into some real proper research, deep research into your dissertation topic under the supervision of an academic that the topic is in their field. And then there are some compulsory electives, and then there's a wide range, about 20, 25 other electives that you can choose from, and then you can also choose electives from the other courses to make up your maximum amount. We also have lots of research centers. Queen Mary is very focused on research-led lecturing and teaching. So a lot of the teaching you have is from researchers who are actually doing the work at the moment. And we also have research centers which you can be involved with and feeds into the work that you're doing from a research point of view, but also from the center's lead with the teaching as well. And there's the Center for Criminal Justice and the International State Crime Initiative, the main ones, I think, for criminal justice. But there are others that you can get involved in too. So that's a kind of a brief, quick overview of the Criminal Justice LLM, and I'm very happy to answer any questions now or afterwards by email, t.macmanus, MACMANUS, @qmul.ac.uk. And I'll hand you over to the next academic.
Thank you so much for that, Thomas. Andrew?
Thanks, Karina. I just have to remind myself to take off mute, getting used to the Zoom environment again. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Dr. Andrew Pitt, and I'm the director of the Public International Law course at Queen Mary. I also teach on the undergrad with introductory law course and criminal law, but at the LLM level, I teach in terrorism, human rights, and migration. And really, human rights and migration law have been my areas of research in the past. In terms of the PAL course, well, I think that Tom has given a really nice overview of how the courses work and this issue that we've had of a restructure that's happening that we're getting used to. For the Public International Law course, it gives a really nice, well, breadth and depth into public international law. Right? So we've got very much foundational subjects as well as the opportunity to look beyond into well, as Tom was suggesting, really niche areas of research that our academics here at Queen Mary offer. So I don't know how much detail I'll go into in terms of outlining the public international law course. I'm sure that some of you have signed up for this course. But according to the new structure, we have compulsory electives, of which you'll have 60 credits to choose from. And these are sort of going to be the core modules for public international law, but also human rights law and also criminal justice. And for public international law, those core subjects are, well, we've got a chapeau module, Fundamentals of Public International Law, which will be run by, well, it's still being determined who's running all of these courses next year, but that would likely be myself and Professor Małgosia Fitzmaurice. Also, we've got Use of Force of International Law, International Law of the Sea, International Environmental Law, which is also a Professor Małgosia Fitzmaurice module, International Refugee Law, and International Child Law, which is run by Hedi Vitobi, who would have been here otherwise, but Niamh is filling in for him. So that's sort of the 6 key areas on the, well, what are called compulsory electives that you'll be choosing 60 credits from. But of course, we've got a much wider range of modules to choose from as well, which we can probably talk about in the questions. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Andrew. And Niamh?
Hi, everyone. My name is Niamh Gordon. I'm a professor in the School of Law, and I'm replacing Hedi today because he's sick. I teach on the human rights program and in several others. I don't know if you've noticed, but civil and political rights, economic and social rights, and cultural rights around the world are being attacked daily, whether it's by the Trump administration or Modi in India or in any other country in the world. And I think we're at a critical moment in world politics where we need to really think about defending these rights, both for ourselves, for future generations, and defending the planet itself. And in all of these modules, whether the one Andrew talked about or Tom talked about, and the ones in the human rights stream, we discuss both how the law can help protect these basic rights, but also about the limits of the law in protecting these rights. And so we discuss both the kind of violations that people are subjected to, and some of the strategies and some of the legal mechanisms with which we can fight back to protect them. I'll be teaching next year women's rights. It's my favorite course in this at Queen Mary. I might be teaching, which relates more to Andrew's, the use of force or the laws of war, basically. My expertise in that is attacks on hospital and the whole Gaza war, which has been going on now for over 18 months. But also very important are, is it only for me or is Andrew jumping? Okay. But also very important are economic and social rights. I still hope that they'll open the module on economic and social rights, which are being attacked right and left in the UK and everywhere else. And they are part, I think, of your future as you join the workforce after you complete your LLM. So I'll be happy to take on any questions. All of us carry out research on the topics we teach. So in many ways, we are the kind of so-called experts on these issues, and we would be happy to share our expertise with you.
Thank you very much, Neve. So if any of you guys have questions, that's why we're here. Please put them in the Q&A section and I'll field them to the correct academics. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for some questions, could you guys potentially share with me what students would say is the best thing about your course, or what they loved about your course in the past, or one of the modules you teach on? You can start with Tom.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's a few things that students really enjoy when they come to do an LLM. One is the varied backgrounds from which people are coming from and coming into the room together into a kind of a really it's a vibrant, it's a safe environment, but it's a vibrant discussion and debate that people can be had. That people can have. And when that comes from people with different backgrounds, with different experiences, I think that really enriches the experience for the students. So it's not just about coming and getting all the information and the knowledge from the academics. I think one thing students really enjoy is meeting each other, which of course creates a network for you when you go on into the workforce afterwards, but also as a way of expanding horizons. I think students really enjoy that.
Thanks, Tom. Andrew?
I'd echo those thoughts again. When it comes to specifics of public international law and the course and the takeaways that students have or highlights, I think one of the things that I've been working on in the past year with Margosha Fitzmaurice is sort of an excursion to the IMO, the International Maritime Organization in London, which is the only UN organization based in London. So having a tour there with the presentation by the head of the legal committee there, and then also the opportunity for students later in the year to actually attend the legal committee's meetings. So with representatives from around the world there present in the room, it's been something that the students have really cherished. For myself, I think on the course that I teach, I think that the highlights that students have are, well, hopefully some of the materials themselves and engaging with, as Neve was saying, this sort of very critical look at, where we are with international law and how it is being threatened, but also the limitations of human rights as a means of protecting individuals around the world against incursions upon their rights. But the course itself, some of the highlights include the experts who I have coming in to speak with the students, with you guys, including really preeminent barristers in the UK. We've got King's Counsel who come in each year on my course, but I've also had guests from UN bodies presenting as well this year. And I think they'll be sort of excited to continue that relationship. So it's that sort of connection, not only with each other, obviously, I think Tom was mentioning that, forming those connections with, I mean, you guys are going to be future colleagues essentially, so having that network, but also this capacity to, make or network within the legal community in the UK and beyond is really valuable.
Thanks very much for that, Andrew. And lastly, Neve?
I mean, in a way, it's not for me to say what the students enjoy in my classes. It is for them to say. I can reiterate some of the things that I think are unique in many ways to Queen Mary. So when I enter a classroom, and let's say there's 30 students in the classroom, it could very well be that they will be from around 10 countries. So we have a reference points and whole worlds that are open up in the classroom and by the students themselves. Because when you talk about, let's say, sexual violence in war, there's different perspectives coming from different areas of the world. Or when you talk about the gig economy and how the gig economy will affect your economic rights and your pensions and the salary that you get and the security and the workforce and so forth, you get a variety of perspectives in the classroom with students bringing in from their own experiences, whether as lawyers, they worked as lawyers before. I've had several time judges in my classrooms and so forth, and you get these different perspectives from Pakistan, from India, from China, from Saudi Arabia, from Egypt, from Turkey, and so forth. And that makes the whole experience extremely interesting, I think, for everyone. I think also taking a step back from work, because many people join the LLM after they've finished their LLB or another degree and have participated for a few years in the workforce. Taking a step back from the workforce just to kind of read and think and work on your skills in terms of writing and expressing yourself, because basically our tools is to write and to speak. That's our tools in the world, both whether we're academics or whether we're lawyers. And I think to take a step back and develop those tools and those skills is extremely important. And I personally work with my students on those skills and also individually, but also often in groups. And I think it's also very important to kind of have group work in the classroom about taking a task and doing it in the classroom within small groups of 3, 4, 5 people. So these are the kind of experiences that I think are very important. I also think that living in London is an asset. London has a lot to offer anyone that lives here in so many fields, and I think that's another issue that we like to take into account, and we sometimes do with our presence in London a lot of things. A year ago, I took one of my classes to a play. We got tickets for the £10 each for tickets that would cost, I don't know, £50. And we went to see a play about the development of the right to vote for women in the UK, or a musical, actually it was. And it's something that you won't get in places outside of London, which I think is also very important.
Thanks very much for that, Neve. Got some questions coming in. I see Andrew and Thomas responding to some in the chat. This one, I don't know who wants to take this one. It's a bit general. So someone is looking to transition into a second career as a solicitor. I'm interested in both international law and family law. My current career is with the NHS as a mental health social worker. What master's program would you recommend based on my career goals? Yaniv?
So it's not clear to me what the career goals are here from your question. What my suggestion would be, first, to think what you're passionate about, what and when I say passionate about, I mean on two levels. One is from the gut and the other is from the mind. And so if you are interested in the whole question of mental health as a social worker and how that translates into law and what you can use your experience already as a social worker, which I would do as a kind of comparative advantage later as a solicitor, then I think there's several avenues that you can go to. One, of course, as you mentioned, is family law, but others can be certain aspects of human rights law. It can be criminal law. I think you need to decide what aspect of the law also interests you, and how you can use your comparative advantage with the skills you've already acquired to in a way that is will benefit you. So, for example, I would probably write a dissertation while you're doing an LLM, which is usually a 10,000 word large paper, and I would do it on mental health in a certain aspect of the law. It can be human rights law, it can be family law, and it can be anything that, again, interests you. I would go with your interest, what you're passionate about.
Thanks very much for that, Neve. I've got a question for Tom. Is there a demand for research-oriented roles in the job market, specifically in the areas of criminal justice and international criminal law? You're on mute.
Excuse me. Yes, I think there is a demand for researchers in the area. I mean, we have to be careful. There's not a massively vibrant job market for researchers in criminal justice at the moment. But there is a market, and there are all kinds of organizations that need this kind of research. And one of the main areas is what we might call the third sector, NGOs. So they don't have to be specifically criminal justice orientated NGOs. They can be quite general, or even environmental NGOs that need to do this kind of research. And then there are government careers as well, where people will be asked to look into these kinds of areas. So it's quite varied what's available out there. But I think the thing to think about it is there are more and more organizations that are requiring people to be looking into these things for them. And so mainly in the third sector, but also, as I say, academia and feeding into policy for government work. There'd be a lot of research going on there.
Thank you. I've got one for Andrew. I see you're typing. For somebody who has in mind doing a PhD in public international law afterwards, what are some of the most contentious areas in the field which I should keep reading about during my LLM?
So is that directed towards me more so as
I think they're
my
just
response?
oh, that's okay. They're interested in public international law or doing an PhD in it afterwards, so it can be directed towards you.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just rereading.
I mean, it's a
very broad.
It's a broad question
question.
because public international law is very broad.
Yes, this is the issue, which is why we've got so many. In fact, we were at a loss to try and narrow down our compulsory electives in public international law because there are so many fields within it. And in fact, the very notion of what constitutes public international law is itself contentious. So perhaps a little more indication from Victor would be helpful.
That's all right.
My suggestion to Victor would be this. You need to narrow down what aspects of what interests you in public international law. There's so many sides to it. And then you look at the website in the department of the academic staff, and you see who among the academic staff is doing work according to their bios that relates to what you're interested in. And then you meet them and you discuss exactly what you want. And it's more a one-on-one kind of meeting where you say, you come to me and you see, I write about attacks on healthcare or about human shields or about the human rights. And these are the topics that interest you in public international law. You would come to me and say, I'm interested specifically in A, B, and C. What should I be reading? And then, or you can go to Tom, who works on state crime and corporate crime, and you're interested in that. And you ask Tom what would be the specific readings, or people that are, of course, not here on the Zoom, because we have about 100 staff members in the department, and you discuss that with that person.
Victor's come back and said that sovereign disputes of resources and accesses would be most interesting to me.
So we also have a center of climate crimes and climate justice. And so David White, Professor David White, or Dr. Angela Sherwood are working on exactly that. So, for example, they have a major project now in West Guinea, exactly about state intervention in extracting resources by one state against another state, and so forth. And so I would just go and talk to them. It has to be, again, you have experts in many fields. I said 100 staff members, each one working on different fields, so you can easily find people that are working on things that are of interest to you.
Thank you, Neve. Question about internship opportunities. I know some courses are a bit different. Are there any internship opportunities available for any of your courses, the three of you?
The International State Crime Initiative has interns every year, and there'll be an opportunity for that. I don't know of any others. I thought there were. But I mean, there are none, I don't think, organized within the department with any of the centers, but there would, of course, be opportunities to go externally. And if we're able to help with that at all, we would.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well, Tom. There used to be a module specifically for internships within migration law, but this has since been, well, not been supported. So that said, that those networks would still be there to a degree, and certainly, as Tom's suggesting, there's the ability to support applications. The other thing to think about with internships, I think, generally, just to bear in mind that the LLM course is pretty demanding. So you want to be thinking about when to time an internship. At the same time, as Neve has been suggesting as well, like we're in London, and whilst there's, I mean, the IMO does have internships, actually, the International Maritime Organization, there are opportunities with, you know, major NGOs based here. So we'd be applying outside of Queen Mary itself, but having support of us for references, perhaps, once you've had a module with us. So that, you know, you can think of, just off the top of my head, Amnesty International is based in London, right, and would have internships which we can support applications to. But bear in mind the need to balance that with the demands of the LLM, which is really an intense year of study.
Thank you. Question from Nora is, could any of the professors throw more light on masters by research with law as a major besides the specialized LLMs? I faced difficulties when I was looking for potential supervisors. Those words don't mean anything to me, so I'm hoping.
Can Nora clarify? Maybe she can speak and clarify what does she mean, masters by research with law?
Yes, Nora, if you can let us know what you mean by that. Oh, she raised her hand. Let me see if I
Can
can.
you allow her to speak?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Yes, thank you, professors. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for organizing the webinar. So to clarify my question, I had applied for a master's by research with the focus in criminal law, criminal justice. And that was through a website called something to do with the interdisciplinary scholarship, something. It's called LIS plus DTP funding. So one of the questions was, first of all, to identify a supervisor before I continued with that particular application. And when I came onto the school's website to look for potential supervisors under Masters by Research with a focus in criminal justice, I could barely find, someone with a potential supervisor to sort of back up my application to take on the Masters by Research. So it is why I asked Masters by Research with a major of law.
Okay, so I was one of the leads on the LIS DTP several years ago.
Oh, I see.
And so you want to apply for a scholarship with LIS DTP, if I understand correctly, because that's
Yes,
what
please.
LIS DTP offers scholarships. And so the way to do it, first of all, I think the deadlines are gone for this coming year, but the way to go about it would be you need to identify exactly what you want to do. You want to do research, much more specific than criminal law. It has to be a topic, an issue that you want to write about. And then you have to identify someone in the department that they don't need to work on the similar issue. So let's say, I'll just give you an example from people that have approached me. Let's say I work or someone wants to do about the legal aspect of the conflict between Kashmir and India. And I don't work on Kashmir in India. And let's say you can't find anyone in the department that works on Kashmir in India. But I work on laws of belligerent occupation. I work on the laws of war. And you can see that from the website. You can see that. So you don't need to find someone that is doing exactly what you want to do, but they're doing things that are similar maybe in other places in the world. And then you write them an email and you say, I would like to submit a LIS DTP proposal based on the topic you want. And then they need for your proposal to be competitive on the LIS DTP, because the LIS DTP receives many proposals. You really need to work on it with a staff member in the department, because they'll help you make it better. But there's stringent timeline, there's deadlines, and you need to give your working at the time that you work on the proposal has to be long enough that will allow you to kind of engage with the professor in the department and improve your proposal and everything, and then meet the deadline.
Okay, thank you very much for that guidance. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much for that, Neve. Thank you to Andrew and Tom for answering the questions in the chat. If anybody has any other questions, now is your final chance to stick them in there. We had questions about SQE, so I'm sure you guys know, but if you're not aware, we are offering a lot of our LLMs with the SQE option. For now, it's just for students with home status, but from next year, hopefully it will be for international students as well. Is there any, oh, how can we participate how can we participate the visiting to IMO?
Hi, Anonymous. So this was opened to students on both the Public International Law LLM and the International Environmental Law LLM, although I think we ended up actually opening it beyond that to other LLM courses. It's a matter of staying tuned and seeing when the opportunity arises, and there will be emails about it, making that offer. So it's very much open. But again, that's going to be something to keep your eye on, which is sort of a general point of advice, not just for that specific event, but for other events that are an opportunity at Queen Mary. Right? I think Tom mentioned some of the centres. There's the Centre for International Law in the public international law realm as well, which also has its sort of annual lecture. This year it was a judge from the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea who came and spoke. It's really a matter of sort of plugging into these different centres. Another centre is the Borders Centre for migration law. And yeah, seeing when these opportunities arise and taking them as they come. But certainly the IMO one, there'll be announcements also within modules, but it's open. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pop in our PG Law-inquiries inbox or email in the chat if any of you guys have questions. And I'm sure Neve and Tom and Andrew would all be fine if you found their emails and came to them with questions if you have them. But it looks like we don't have any other questions at the moment. But if you do have questions or you think about them after this, please feel free to email our pglaw-inquiries@qmul.ac.uk email. This webinar will be posted on our YouTube within the next few weeks and emailed to you as well. But thank you so much to Neve, especially for stepping in, and also Tom and Andrew for your time today. I think we've got some really good questions. So thank you to the review, and thank you to everyone for attending. Cheers. Bye.